Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to the A's to Z's of Building a Real Estate Team. As a reminder, we hold this on the first Monday of every month. And sometimes I get one person, sometimes I get five, sometimes I get 10. It's just always a win either way. Kim, we were just chatting that Mary Ellen was my only person on systems with Selina last Friday, and we ended up having just the best talk one-on-one. So it was like, I just show up and whoever gets to be here gets to be here, and I just call it a win. So thank you both ladies for coming today. I do have a topic today, but if there's anything in particular that anyone wants to discuss, let's talk about that now so I remember to go over it. Anything in particular? No? Mary Ellen, you are a single solo agent, yes?
Yes,
Right? And Kim, are you running a team or are you still just doing solo production?
I'm solo, but I'm willing to learn and grow and be coached.
Got it.
same.
Okay.
I did have a team license last year or the year before, but when I came over to EXP, I got rid of it.
That changed it. Okay. So usually I like to use the opportunity to do these calls, and Rick and I used to do them together, just because we're both workman coaches to talk about all aspects of team. A lot of times when people come to this call, sometimes they'll be like, oh, this is for organization. Two different that's tomorrow's call. That's tomorrow's call. Today is all about teams, and I talk about all kinds of different things, so we can discuss whatever you want. We talk about what the structure could look like, what the pay options are, like SOPs, whatever it is. Today, I'm bringing to the call, and this is actually really good because both of you are solo agents. It's about hiring an assistant. So it's called Stop Being the Bottleneck, because ultimately Kim's like, yeah, I'm not gonna make eye contact. So and the reason that I thought of this was I'm working with it's a son and mother team outside of the East Coast, and I've been talking to them for years. They're in Casey's Frontline, and I just love them to pieces, and they're amazing. But when I talk to them, pretty much twice a month, I keep hearing the things that they're doing that are low dollar activities. It's not money making. And I can't figure out why the lead gen is not picking up. And it's because the admin work is just staying there, right? So it really made me think about it a lot this last week. They're finally starting to hire a VA. So excited. So the reason that I again bring this up is like sometimes people will plateau in their production and they can't figure out why. I can't seem to do more, or I can't seem to focus, and it's because we tend to be spending our time on these activities that really are not valuable to us at all. And I lovingly call them $12 an hour activities, just because that's around about what you would pay someone that was inside of your office, or at least it used to be. It's different now. And there are two different ways to think about this. There's hiring someone local that is with you all of the time, and there's hiring a VA, which my fabulous Laura, who you see here, she's up here on my screen, um, is my virtual assistant. She's the other side of my brain, and she keeps me from wanting to go insane most days. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's no right way or wrong way. It's just what works for you, either financially or how you work best with people. So I want to talk about delegation, because this is really where this bottleneck starts. And when I start talking to somebody about hiring an assistant, especially as a independent single agent, solo agent, I say, I want you to take a notebook and I want you to put it on the right side of your desk if you're right-handed, left if you're left-handed. And for a week to 2 weeks, I want you to write down everything that you're doing that makes you want to pull your eyelashes out. like like if you are like mad while you're doing it, you can feel yourself getting angry and you're like, I hate doing this, that goes on the list. If it's something that you know is taking you away from being able to generate more business, also on the list, right? So Kim, you were on the other day for the social media thing, right, that we did with Bree, and like similar thing of like a lot of that can be done by an assistant. So we'll go through that in a minute. So I want to start with the 4 levels of delegation. The first one is do it all. That's probably where you both are right now. You're in the do it all stage. You're a solo agent having to do all of the things. Maybe you have a TC. I'm hoping you do. Anybody? Both? Do you have a TC, Kim?
I have an excellent TC that's on my second line.
Excellent. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I know who she is.
Charlene, I knew you'd know.
Yeah. Okay.
She's incredible. She's saved my bacon I don't know how many times.
Yeah. So that's always a very first win. Very first win. Then the next stage is help me. You have an assistant, but you're still directing everything. Okay. That's the next stage. The next one is take it over, meaning you have an empowered team member who has ownership. Might be like an operations manager, full, and knows to do things and move things along, right? And then the last stage is lead it. You're the leadership team, or you have department heads and everyone else is doing their jobs. So this progresses over time. And I'm going to give you some some examples of how that could happen. So I think you guys know I used to run a team in New York, just north of Manhattan. It was not my team. I was hired on actually initially I'm a big tech geek. And I was hired to build workflows inside of a system that he was using. He had been in business for 25 years, running a very successful team in Westchester County. And he hired me to build some things. So that started our relationship. And then I started, gosh, I'm trying to think of what I did next. Maybe it was listing manager and then operations and all of this. And it sort of just kept progressing until eventually I was team leader and I ran the team. All he did was list houses and I did everything else. So the reason I bring that up is because at one point it was just him and an assistant. Okay. And then it was him and an assistant and some buyer agents. And then it was somebody who then it was a TC, right? A full-blown TC on top of the assistant. So it started to grow over time. And this was from 65 transactions to 150 transactions. You're going to see how an org chart can grow. Then it was a listing manager, a VA, a TC, and an operations manager. Then, because we had so many listings, it was a field services coordinator. And that was someone in New York, you have to go and do all of the town hall permitting, all of that before you can sell a house. It's insane what you have to pull together. Then we had that. Then we also had sign runners for open house signs and putting out our for sale signs, right? Then we had to hire another TC because we got to 150 transactions. So what I want you to see is that it starts here. And if you're truly interested in building a team, hang on, I'm going to let Miss Debbie Pelham in. Ooh, Debbie in the house. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. That you start to grow with what that looks like. Now, there are people who do this extraordinarily well with all VAs, except for like sign runners and field service coordinators, right? They'll have a listing manager, they'll have a TC, they'll have an operations manager. All of that can be done with VAs as well. Okay. But I want you to see what that kind of structure looks like over time. The reason we start with a VA or an assistant is because you can give them so many things that you should not be doing. And the idea is that what you're doing with that saved time is more lead gen, more lead gen, right? So let's talk about some of the things that you can delegate. Anybody have any great things they'd like to delegate right now that they want to talk about? You're like, take it, be done with it. I don't ever want to see it
Like an
again.
expired mailing campaign.
Yep. Kim, you have anything?
I'm just thinking. Probably should get video editing off my plate, but I love it.
Really? You love it?
I have a degree in computer systems. I'm a geek. And I have all my own gadgets and stuff. And when Sean passed away, I turned my TV off. So, and I never really watch TV. I just study. Like I enjoy that too,
Wow.
studying. So I'm a little weirdo.
I
But
love
yeah, so I'll just do it like in the evenings, instead of watching TV, I'll edit videos.
Wow.
Probably that. And then maybe a little more. I need a database manager, like someone to manage my CRM.
I love that. I love that. And by the way, there are loads of people out there that do that. Loads of people, and virtually as well, right? So
Because
that was
mine looks like a dumpster fire.
well, don't feel like you're alone in that.
No.
I love to tell this story because Mark had been in business for 25 years and he had about 20,000 leads in Boomtown that we were using. And it was just a freaking hot mess. It was like nobody knew who would talk to who, when, and last. Because at one point we had 16 agents on the team, plus Mark, plus all of the staff. And it was just a wreck in there, right? and this is something for you to think about, Kim, is what we did was we hired college students to come in, and they needed a couple of hours a week, right? And they would come in, and it took them about 6 months to get through all 20 something thousand leads, but they went through, they called, they followed up, they categorized, they checked to see if maybe it needed to be, we converted a 7-year lead for $2 million that was in there off of these kids calling. And the guy was like, oh, I'm so glad you called. Yeah, I actually do want to buy. So it works. They would just come in for a couple of hours. We would pay them minimum wage. We would teach them the scripts. Obviously, they weren't breaking any real estate laws because they weren't selling any real estate. They were just saying, I'm calling to see if anything's changed or shifted in your real estate needs. They would then categorize it. And by the end of 6 months, that was a very tight, clean database. So something to think about. They're always looking for, spending money, college kids. And it's a good time to do it actually over the summer because it opens it up a little bit more. And just for future reference, we advertised at the local colleges. They have a job board. So we just reached out to all of them. Most of them have job boards for people who are just looking for a couple hours a week. Just a way to get it under control. So lead follow-up was top on my list. That's one of those things where somebody else can be in there watching your database and checking to see if anything is what I call bubbled up, right? And in that case, they're going to assign it to you and they're going to say, hey, this one's hot, whatever it is. So that's the first one. Transaction coordination, you obviously already have on lockdown, and welcome Debbie Pelham to the call. My favorite transaction coordinator. And then we have social media scheduling. Laura does all of ours. I would lose my mind if somebody told me to do it. I suck at doing my own. Laura keeps us consistent. That is definitely something you can create all of your Canva templates in advance, everything that needs to be done, and have someone else do and schedule for you. Okay. Calendar management. Now, this is the one thing I don't let go of because my calendar is a bit of a disaster area. But when Mr. Jiha was with us, his calendar made me want to pull my eyelashes out because he would never pay attention to, oh, do I actually need time to drive from that end of East Bay to that end of East Bay between his appointments? And he would never block it. And I'd be like, are you going to just like beam from one to the other? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. It's at least an hour drive, right? And so I was watching his calendar all the time because I'm obsessive about mine, and now I'm obsessive about Casey's. I'm just always in there kind of watching it. But that is something that a VA or an assistant should be doing. I used to do the same thing for Mark, even though I wasn't his assistant anymore. I was a team leader, but he had the same problem. Teleport, exactly, Mariella. That's what I was thinking of. He was not really taking that into account. And sometimes it's nice to have a second set of eyeballs of, hey, did you block this? Did you know you have this? I did it with Casey this morning. I was like, you have a slide deck too. You haven't done it yet. So it's like a second set of eyeballs that's in there, right? And then the next one is a little bit different in the sense of I'm switching to organization, but for those of you that are building them, it's agent onboarding and milestone tracking. Laura does our onboarding most of the time, unless we get somebody who's a little bit cray-cray, and then I do it. But she's typically onboarding new agents into the organization. We've taught her how to do it. She's been on calls with me. She knows exactly what to do to get somebody onboarded, whereas I'm not spending 45 minutes getting somebody into the Join app, right? So it's another thing that somebody can take care of for you. The milestone tracking, is everyone aware that you can go to your notifications in My EXP now and see if someone's capped? You can see that, like, okay. So if you are in My EXP on the upper, hang on, I'm gonna bebop over here. Mine is much smaller than Casey's, but let me switch over here. I'm gonna share my screen just so you see it. This is a fairly new tool. What do you think, Laura? A couple months now that we've had it?
Yeah, since the beginning of the year.
I have way too many tabs open and my computer is confused. 1 second.
I
It's
love
like,
all the notifications that you're posting of the cappers.
oh yeah, we want everybody to know how excited we are about what they're doing. So just so you guys know, if you go up here in the upper right hand corner when you're on My EXP, there's this little bell. Let's see. And when you go here, it says My Activity Feed, but if you click on Recognition, this one there's all different kinds of notifications. They don't have icon in yet. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Ooh, 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 yeah. Okay. Todd Schneider has achieved their highest price. He's closed his highest price listing or buy side since he's been with us, right? And this person, Nina, has completed their first transaction. Big win, right? And then the other ones that are in here are cappers and FLQA status, things like that. So you would go to view all and it'll pull it all up. Laura actually takes these out for me, puts them into this ginormous spreadsheet that we have, that then I have a Zapier built with that goes into my CRM and sends them an email automatically that says, congratulations. You know, so obviously with the sheer number that we have in Casey's organization, I had to have some sort of automation around it. But she's doing a lot of that work, right? Laura is pulling it, doing it. I built the Zap so that when she puts it in the spreadsheet, it zaps over and, you know, does all the magic in the background. But that is something an assistant can help you with. She's also always watching for birthdays for me, which is amazing. So I try to catch as many of them as I can, but she'll send me a little message and be like, it's such and such's birthday today. This is retention. One is recruiting, one is retention. Very, very important, because chances are they didn't get anything like that wherever they were, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing that. Outside of that, guys, there's so much more that can be done. Laura helps me with spreadsheets. She helps me prep for team meetings. Like, there's all sorts of things. And she will probably be the first to tell you that Selina is not very good at delegating. You know, like, I struggle with it. I am always just in the moment and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just doing it. So it is something I am still working on. So when I tell people to think about this, I use this and it's from, oh goodness, I'm trying to remember. Delegate, automate, eliminate. That's it. Delegate, automate, eliminate. What can you delegate to someone? What can you automate? You heard me just talk about the Zaps, right? So I'm using Zapier on the back end to automate things for us. And then what can be eliminated? Does it need to be eliminated? Like, why are we doing it? Is it important, right? You're thinking about each one of those things. So everything that you do, like if you're going to start that list for the next week to 2 weeks, that's what you're going to put next to it. Delegate, automate, or eliminate it. Like, what am I doing with my time and is it useful, right? So I want you to start thinking about those kinds of things, because normally I did this with the couple that I was talking to last week. They were ready to hire. I said, oh no, we're not hiring anybody till you know what they're doing. Like, we're not, like, that list starts to become their job description. Okay, so you keep the list of all the things that you shouldn't be doing and all the things you would rather die than do. And then when we get that, we stop and we say, great, okay, how would we write this up in a job description so that this person now has an expectation of what's required of them, right? And then the second thing we do is we start doing our own training. The reason that we do that is sometimes VAs don't work out. I had a VA or assistants. I had a VA before Laura. She lasted a couple of months. Like, then I found Laura. Now she's mine forever. I'm never letting her go. But I did not do a good job with the first one of recording all of the trainings. And had I done that, Laura would have had a head start on what needed to be done. So I tell people, I'm like, if you want them entering your MLS listings for you, the next time you put an MLS, a listing in the MLS, you record yourself doing it. You open up Zoom, you've got it up on the screen, and you talk through the whole thing about why perhaps we choose each thing. I love to tell this story because I don't really know what I would have done. I'm still licensed in New York. I never got licensed in California. When Rick passed away, we had, I think, 3 listings coming on. And I did not know how to do a darn thing in that wonky MLS that you guys have in the East Bay. Okay, that thing is janky. And I was really struggling. And the week before he passed, he had an agent that he had just sponsored into EXP that needed help with getting a listing in. And he had done a full hour training on Zoom of how to do it. And that saved my butt, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And like, I didn't have 900 other things happening that week. I was so grateful to have it. So these are the kinds of things that I tell you to record, and then you download it and you throw it in a Google Drive and you name it whatever that training was. Okay, every aspect of it. And especially for newer agents, guys, this is helpful not just for assistants, but for agents. you can send them that, like, here's how to put a listing in. Here's how to upload photos to that listing. I actually had this happen where someone said, I don't know how to add an open house to my listing. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, let me record it. I'm going to send you just this quick Zoom video. Now you'll see exactly how to add open houses. Right. Oh, I don't know how to put it in contract. What's required? People ask me all the time on my EXP how to do things, and I'll quickly record a video and send it to them. Save it forever in a Google Drive and label each thing of like what it is, MLS listings, how to handle, writing contracts, whatever that is. What you're doing now is creating a training library. This was very effective for my VA in New York because we actually bought her a monitor and sent it to the Philippines because she didn't have a second monitor. But I said, you're going to pull the video up on one screen and you're going to pull the actual application up on the other screen. Now you can watch the video and pause it as needed while you're doing everything. And then, as I mentioned, if maybe your first assistant doesn't work out, now the second assistant that you hire has a full training library to go to as well. So you could start doing that now with anything that you have, right? Just immediately start recording. I started this because of a personal health situation, but I called it the if Selina gets hit by a bus plan. So I had a silent heart attack when I was 43, and I was out for a bit, and there was a lot that happened inside of Selina's head that nobody knew how to do. And so I was getting calls constantly. Same thing happened after my hysterectomy. I think I was out of my surgery for about 4 hours and my phone was ringing off the hook from the staff. And I was like, hello, it has been 4 hours since I've had my insides cut out. Like there's got to be a way you guys can figure this out. As agents and solo agents, something happens to you, God forbid, whether you get hurt, you have an accident, anything, someone needs to know how to do what you do. Okay, it was one of the biggest things that Mark and I always talked about because he was the breadwinner in his family. And like, what happens if something happens to him? How do we keep everything going? And so we started a standard operating procedure of like every single aspect, right? And if his wife needed to step in and like handle things, that she would know what he was doing and how he was doing it. So just things to think through as you're kind of creating this for who you want to bring in is, how do I make it easier for them to learn, to go back and reference something? And I'm a huge proponent in training when you do bring somebody on of the I do, we do, you do. So the first time I sit down with an assistant, it's like, you're going to watch me do it. I'm doing it. The next time we're going to do it together. And then the last time it's going to be you do. And sometimes you can do 2 and 2 and 2, depending on how like difficult the task is. We also did this with agents that we hired on our team. So if they were going on a buyer's appointment for the first time, they watched us do it the first time. They would sit there quietly and take notes. The next time we would do part half and half. They would have to learn the buyer presentation enough to do half of it. The other one of us would do the other half. And then the last time it would be just them, but we were there quietly listening. And at the end of every one of those listing appointments, buyer appointments, open houses, whatever it was, we would have a feedback session. Here's what went well. Here's what you can work on, everything. Same goes for an assistant. I do, we do, you do, until they feel comfortable. Okay. And then you can pass it off and everybody feels good about it. Okay. I'm going to stop there. Anybody have any questions or thoughts before I? No? Okay. Okay, the next step is really how to delegate without micromanaging. This can be very hard when you've never had an assistant. Debbie's laughing. Okay.
Does that even exist?
It does. Rarely. Rarely. It's
First of all,
very
I can't imagine delegating. Second of all, I'm going to be all over you if I delegate some to you because I need to make sure I can trust you to get it done.
That's where the trust comes into play. And that's why that I do, we do, you do is so powerful, because now you've had an experience of them doing it right. Okay. It makes it a little bit easier. I trust Laura on spreadsheets. I don't trust anybody on spreadsheets. I am like a spreadsheet. Like, I love my spreadsheets. She is the only person I've ever been like, go do the thing. And it's because she's very good at it and she's proven herself, right? Other people, I'm like, you're not touching that spreadsheet. Don't touch it. And like, you have no edit rights, nothing. That's trust that's built. because I've had the experience of her being really incredible at it, right? Same concept of like, yes, if I taught a new assistant how to put a listing in, I'm never going to let them go live with that until I've checked it first every time, right? I'm going to be like, here's how to do it. I've watched you do it. Tell me when you've finished. I'm now going to log in and go check it. And then after a period of time, you're going to be like, wow, they did it perfectly. Excellent. Great. You go do, right? So you have to be very careful when you're delegating to, one, give yourself the belief that someone else can do it, right? And the only way they're going to know that is if you already have systems and processes in place, like training videos and standard operating procedures on how to do it. Okay. One of the beautiful things that we didn't have back then that we do now is if you do a training video on Zoom and you record it, I used to have to sit there afterwards. I always make a video and I make a written SOP. I have both. GPT will now do that for you. All you have to do is send it the link to the video and it will actually create the SOP for you. Back then I was having to sit there and tap. Now it takes like 2 seconds. So something for you to think about is create the other side of it inside of a Google Doc that's kind of line iteming everything out. Okay. This is also important. You need to make an org chart of who does what. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what you're going to be doing. It's always open. We're always going to have new things that get added. A new software comes in and, you know, everybody's got to like learn it or whatever. But a clear expectation of what their roles and responsibilities are and what yours are. So that and sometimes it's going to overlap, right? Sometimes Louder and I are both working on stuff and Casey's working on stuff. And so there's like 3 of us inside of one thing, but we have clear expectations of what's going to happen because we've written it out. So create that in your org chart. And remember, as you grow, let's say that you decide that you want to hire another person that's actually an administrative person. Now that org chart's going to change. You're going to say, oh, well, you were doing listing and social media and this and that. And now I've hired a social media person. So this is coming off of your plate. It's going to open up your space maybe to do more onboarding or whatever that looks like. So as your org chart grows, you have to kind of change what that looks like because it's going to change with your team, right? We talked about the SOPs and the videos for training. And then I suggest you do check-ins. Okay, so Laura, Casey, and I do a huddle 4 days a week, every morning. And it's like, here's where we are, here's what needs to be done, here's what we're working on. That way they feel like they have direction. I'm not always good at giving it to Laura. I'm still working on it about what we're working on. And then kind of expectations of like, these are the other things we have coming up. They don't have to be long. They can be 15 minutes of like, here's what's happening. We use Slack because we use the free version and it allows Laura and I to talk regularly throughout the day, like we're instant messaging. We can share files in there, pictures in there, links in there. It allows us to work really, really well together. It's available on your phone, on your iPad, whatever it is. But she might like create an image and then send it to me in Slack and say, what do you think? And then, you know, I can message back immediately. So something for you to think about with your check-ins or, you know, any conversations that you're having. Okay. From there, what I want you to start thinking about is what stage are you there that you need help? Okay. This is where most agents wait too long before they hire somebody. They wait until they're so caught in the weeds of what they're doing and they're feeling like really flustered about all of the things happening that they're not getting in front of it. I want you to think about, is it a price point? Is it a number of units that you're doing? Whatever that looks like, because it's often to the point where you're already losing your mind and running around that you're not doing it, that you're not. And you want to get in front of it because it does take time to train. This is probably the biggest hiccup that I get with people. It's like, well, I hired someone, but oh my God, I don't have any time to train them. No. And that's why I tell them, we don't hire until we know what they're doing. And then that way you've already started, like the team I talked to last week, they have the list completed now. Now they're starting the training videos because he said, I just don't know that I have the time, you know, for a whole week to sit there and train somebody. I said, great, don't. What I want you to do is now start creating all of these training videos so that when they come in, they actually have things to watch and learn, right? So that maybe you're not as busy teaching them in that moment. They've got that. And then slowly you're giving them tasks as they come up every time that you get a new listing or that you get into contract or whatever that is, because from there, they're getting exposure to it. Sometimes they hire people and you're like, I don't have any listings and I have nothing for you to do. So they can use that downtime to learn all of the other things. And let's be real, there's a lot to learn inside of EXP as well. So getting them acquainted with Sky Slope and from a listing management perspective, right? Sky Slope and the back end of my EXP and now Canva Pro and like all of the different things, create that well in advance of like a roadmap for their training. Like, here's what your first 30 days are going to look like. Here are all of the videos and the trainings and the opportunities for you to go into my EXP and figure all of this back end stuff out. Laura knows more about EXP now than most agents that come on, right? And so she's done a lot of that work, and it takes time and energy to do it. Okay, like I said, have those regular meetings. Laura attends a lot of things with me. You guys see her on these. You see her on Free Friday coaching calls. She's on onboarding calls with me. She sees and hears things from a different perspective than I do. Right? So she will notice things and send me a message, or she'll do reminders. Selena, you forgot to do this, da, 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 right? That is built over time, and it's only built with trust and including them in everything that you're doing. So it was one of the biggest feedbacks I got from, we had our VA, she's actually still with Mark for years and years. It's probably 15 years now. And she's in the Philippines. Her name is Camille, and she's amazing. And she had come to me maybe, gosh, it might have been a full year into me being there and kind of running things. And she said, can I jump on Zoom with you? And I said, sure. And we got on and she said, is there a reason I don't get invited to the team meetings? Like, because we always have them open on Zoom as well, because we were usually bringing in our lender and things like that. And I said, no, like, and she said, well, I do all these things on the back end for you guys. She was prepping listing presentations and buyer presentations, and she was posting about open houses and all of that. And she said, and I would just like to be a part of the meeting. And I felt terrible, because it just hadn't crossed my mind, right? Because typically we're training inside of that meeting. It's like a sales meeting, but we also do go over wins and things like that. And she was missing all of that. She said, and it also lets her hear what's coming next, what people are working on. And she said, I just feel like I would have a better idea about what's going on with everybody in the team. Because at that point we were like 16 agents, 5 staff members, plus Mark, it's a lot of people. And she said, you guys talk about personal stuff and personal wins, and I'd like to know that about everybody. And I was like, well, I feel like a jerk. Like, I mean, it just hadn't crossed my mind. And so after that, she was on every week, right? And all of a sudden she did have a much better understanding of what was going on with sellers or what was going on with buyers or why we were doing what we were doing. And she started to get it made her better at what she was doing. Okay. So if it's an assistant in-house or virtual, I encourage you to have them be very involved. Okay, as much as possible. I think Gogo, Beth Key mentions that she has a lot of virtuals, but she has one that's on every single call she's on, no matter what. And that person is listening to everything, taking notes, and creating all of the next steps from every single meeting, right? So it's something that I want you to think about, because a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just go tell her. Imagine if you didn't have to do that because they were there. Right? It was already happening in real time. So something for you guys to think about that a lot of other people are not. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thoughts, questions, panic, anything?
It's just getting me really thinking. And that's why I came on this call, is to just be better, because I do a weird little teeter-totter between agent attraction and selling houses. And then I've also increased my price point over the last probably 5-6 years, so that I don't have all the little busy stuff. I just have the nice big things that I'm working on. And I think going through my database is like going to be my number 2. Number 1 is going to be write down everything. So I'm so thankful that I jumped on this call. It's getting my brain like thinking about a whole bunch of other stuff.
Good. I mean, loud. Oh, go ahead, Debbie. You look like you were going to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say I missed the part about. I'm sorry, my computer was glitching on me. I missed the part about I came in right at the tail end of going through your database. What was just very briefly?
Yeah, so it was one of the very first things I mentioned that an assistant can help with, which is like getting that database clean. And I mentioned to Kim that in New York, whenever Mark and I decided to do it, we had about 20,000 leads in Boomtown, and it was a hot mess. And we hired some college kids to do it. Like they literally came in, we gave them phones, we set them up like they would sit across from each other, and they each had a phone in their hand, and it was their job to go through the database and call everyone, recategorize, add a note about, what was going on in their lives at that moment. And it took them about 6 months because like they weren't doing it full time, right? They're just coming in for a couple of hours each time and earning a little extra cash. But at 6 months, that database was crystal clear, right? And we were converting leads, which was what was crazy. It was like, because people were actually calling them, right? I mean, for those of you that haven't run a team, getting an agent to call leads is like, you just, um, you know, but they did, they cleaned it up beautifully.
How did the conversion come about? Was that something that you trained those people to do, or it just kind of naturally
Nope. We gave them a very basic script in the beginning, and then it kind of started to morph as they were making calls. Like we were keeping up with them pretty regularly, but in the beginning, because they're not licensed, right? They were very limited on what they could say, but they would just call them and say, "Hey, we just noticed we're clean." I won't say lied, we fibbed a little. We said we're changing databases, so we need to update, right? Because that was like an excuse for them to call. And you were in our original database, so we just want to make sure we have everything as recent or current as, as we can. So we would be getting new phone numbers, new addresses, like they had a whole list of things that they were going through. And then they would say, has anything changed with your real estate needs? Do you need to buy, sell, or invest, right? Very easy, simple question. And it was that would say, they would either tell us they'd already bought, didn't matter, we got the new address, right? So, and then we would just put them on a long-term drip, and we taught them how to do all of that. Okay, because again, most people don't call their past clients after they close. We call those orphans. It's different than what we think about orphans at EXP, but they can become your client, especially if they said, well, Selina, I bought 5 years ago. Okay, well, they're about 2 years away from probably selling and buying again. So all of those things we taught them. They had like a little checklist sitting at the desk. And then if they said, you know what, this is what actually really happened, Debbie. We had several that converted, but the biggest win was there was a guy in there for 7 years and he bought for 2 million with us because of those kids calling. And he was like, I'm so glad you called, actually. I do want to buy. And that turned into that person would say, I'm going to get you in touch with an agent, right? Typically they brought it to me because I was in the office every day and I would decide based on price point or location, which agent got it. But that was a big win of cleaning it up. Everybody was categorized by our tags, right? We had A, B, C, and I use the term D for deadbeats, but that's just what I use. And sphere of influence or whatever it was, but it was really, really clean after that. Everyone was on a drip. Anyone who was interested was getting put into, yes, I'm looking for 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, whatever it was. All of the things that you're supposed to do with your CRM that almost nobody actually does.
Did they do live transfers if you had a hot one?
They would, if we had somebody in the office, yeah, we would just go ahead and do it right there. Most of our agents came in every day. I mean, it was kind of a requirement for us because we had a beautiful office in downtown. And so we huddled in live every morning. We did our team meetings typically live. And then they would come in because we had set up space for them and they would do their lead gen in the office, especially. So it worked really well for us to do a live transfer. They would be like, hold 1 second. And they'd be like, so we have a live one, and we would make the transfer. Yeah. Good question, Debbie.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that is very easy if you do go virtual for a virtual to do. If they don't have to pick up the phone. Now we got our virtual Ring Central. So she had a New York number through Ring Central and she could call. I am very particular when I'm hiring a virtual assistant of how, this is going to sound terrible, but how good they are at speaking. Right. Because if I am going to have them making calls, a lot of people hire virtual assistants to be ISAs. inbound sales agent and outbound sales agents. It's very important that they can speak clearly and understand a lot of English. So it's something to think about. That is a very good use of a part-time virtual assistant, is if you're not making calls, or Mary Ellen, you mentioned like expireds, FISBOs. In this case, the person I was talking to last week, he's doing a lot of auction and tax sales. And when he told me how much time he was spending logging onto the website and pulling the information to put it into a spreadsheet and all of this, and I was like, okay, that is what assistants are for. Like, could you imagine if you just got up every morning and that spreadsheet was already preloaded with everything that you needed to just make the calls and convert those leads? Like, have that happen? Like, and he was like, that could happen. I was like, yes, that could happen. You know, Casey wakes up every morning and Laura has pulled in every new agent that we've had in the organization, and it's in a spreadsheet that Casey can then just go and look at, and their phone number is there, and she can make her welcome calls. Like, that is the beauty of assistance and help, right? There's a lot of ways that you can get help that you're probably not even thinking about. Laura does our social media posting, right? She posts all of those announcements, like you said, congratulations on who's iconed, who's capped, who's this. And it's now just a system that we have in place to do all of that. So I want you to start really opening your mind up to the possibility of what that can look like for you. And then I want you to, though, this is the hiccup that most agents don't do. You fill that saved time with lead generation, money making activities. So this is another activity that you can do. It's kind of like the list, but you can open up your calendar and set a timer on your phone and say that every 15 to 30 minutes, you're going to document in your calendar what you spent doing in that previous 15 minutes. And then at the end of the week, if you look at that and you see that so much of it is administrative, like, that's a clear indicator. Okay, that now obviously when we all start out as individual agents, there's a period of time that you need to get into production, start earning the income, and start seeing that that's going to shift. But it's also going to give you a very clear idea about the fact that you're not doing enough lead generation activities because you're doing all of the other things. Okay, so track it and just see and look at it. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but Laura knows I track a lot of stuff in my calendar. It's like, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm trying to figure out if I'm using my time wisely. I also find that I'm much more energetic in the morning than I am in the evening or the late afternoon. So I try to do those really important activities first thing in the morning, because I feel like I show up in a different space that way. And it's actually helped me a lot since moving to Houston, because now I'm 2 hours ahead of California. So I'm like over here doing my mastermind. Like, I'm like, ooh, this is where all the magic happens before anybody else is even awake. So it's like, set your calendar up to what feels most effective for you. But also just kind of keep track of the stuff that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be. Another option, if you're not ready to hire an assistant yet, use something like Fiverr, Fiverr. Okay. I love to do all the things. And there was a period of time where I was like, oh, we need this new flyer. I'm feeling creative today. I'm going to do it. And then like 2 hours later, I can't get it to do what I want. You can jump on Fiverr. And for somebody who does that on a regular basis, they typically will have that puppy back to you in about 15 minutes, and you might have paid $10. It's so worth it. I'm like you, Kim. I love to learn stuff, man. I am like soaking it in all the time. And I'm like, and I go to ChatGPT now, tell me how to do this. And it's teaching me, when in reality, the smarter thing would be for me to have done was go on Fiverr and say, hey, I need this. This is what I want. They send me a first draft. I look at it. I'm like, no, change this, this, and this. 10 minutes later, it's back to me and it's finished. Okay, a lot of people will focus on things like open house flyers and things like that. Thank you, Laura. See, she's over there watching in the background, and she put it in the chat already. But they'll spend oodles of time like, I want to create this for my pop buys or whatever. Like, and you're in Canva and 2 hours have passed. And I want you to think what you could have earned in 2 hours had you called expired listings or your sphere of influence or whatever that was. Right? So you've got to like shift your mindset and understand like delegating out those things is really important. Like people laugh at me all the time. I order my groceries. I use Instacart. Yeah. And they're like, how far away is the grocery store? I'm like, 1/4 of a mile I could walk. And they're like, Why don't you go grocery shopping? I'm like, one, I hate it. I am homicidal in Costco. It is not a good place for Selena to go. I actually did go last weekend and I warned my husband at the time. I was like, just know that there's bail money in this account if something happens, because I am just not safe in Costco. However, the amount of time it takes for me to get in the car, fight all the people at this particular grocery store, because I live in a very busy neighborhood, is time wasted, right? At that point, I can be here, I can be working, I can be building, I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And that is getting done by somebody else that now they're getting to earn as a result of that. Okay. Great. That's exactly it. I'll tell you the other thing, Mary Ellen, that it saved me on that I did not realize till I started ordering. I was over buying when I was going because you see something you like and you pick it up and you put it in the cart. When I do it on Instacart, I am literally going down a list of everything I need to make my meals and I'm not browsing aisles going, that looks good. That looks good. Let's throw it in the buggy, right? I am very specific, but it saves you time. Okay, there are all of these things that you can do. My dry cleaning. I found a place locally. They come by, they don't charge me any extra. They come by and they pick it up from my front door on Tuesdays and it's back on Thursdays and back and forth. Time saver. I'm all about automating my life and creating the ability to spend my time doing something that's going to make me money. Okay. You got to start thinking about your life in these ways. We live in an amazing time where all of that stuff is possible, right? So it's like you think about it and you're like, is this worth, and figure out what you're worth, guys. This is something you can go back and do. Figure out how much you made in the past 12 months and divide that by 40 hours a week and 50, I'm going to say 50 weeks. Okay, because let's assume that you're going on vacation. That's your hourly rate. If you are doing anything that does not equal that amount, it's under that, you need to be delegating or find a way to get it out because that's what you're worth. And if you take 2 hours to go to the grocery store, fight traffic, get all the groceries out, come home, now you do still have to put them away, but the reality is, if that was an hour that you could get back and you could say, instead, I'm going to sit here and call expireds for a straight hour, I'm not going to quit until I'm done, right? Then you just probably earned more money than if you had gone and do that thing. So you've got to start thinking about your life in different ways. Like, what is possible for you? What are the things that you're currently doing? I am the queen of Amazon. Everything gets delivered to my front door, and I'm like, I know. And Debbie, I see what you said. It was very, very important to be out and leave the house. That is probably my biggest hiccup is that I don't get up. I'm in, and everyone laughs, but I have 5 screens in front of me. And it's because I am like always working on multiple different things. And then I'm like, I need to get out of the house. I haven't left the house in days. So I will take a walk, or like, I love it because I walk my son to the bus stop every morning and it's only 15 or 20 minutes, but at least I'm getting up and going out and doing those things. A mole, Kim, that's funny. I am the mole. I could be in this chair. I just actually bought myself a new chair that's better than the chair I'm in because I spend so much time in this chair. But I do recognize that I need to get out and about. I just try to make sure that if I'm doing that, it's truly purely social or something like that, versus something that I feel is not a good use of my time. I went to a crawfish boil on Saturday, ended up talking to 3 people about real estate while I was there, so it was a really powerful moment. I'm not hugely fond of going out in social environments all the time. So I am very congratulatory of myself because I stayed for 3 hours. But that was a good use of my time. 1, I love those people. I saw people I even went to high school with. 2, I had 3 conversations about real estate while I was there. 2 of them didn't know I was even in Houston yet, right? So that was a big win. So they're just different things to think about. If it gets you out of the house, do it. If it's not a good use of your time and you could be here and you could be building, creating, recruiting, whatever that looks like, you have to decide what's a better use of your time. Okay. All right. We have 9 minutes left. Thoughts, questions? Anything?
Well, sometimes I need to get out of the house, number one, to get my eyes off of a screen. And I'm starting to get bad circulation in my legs, and my legs are starting to get numb from sitting for so long. And so I need to get out and walk and do stuff. And going up and down my stairs, it doesn't seem to be enough because the food's downstairs. And then that's another one of my habits is I only go downstairs so I can get food or to fill up my water. And I need to do more than just up and down the stairs for food and water. But so sometimes even at like 11 o'clock in the morning, I'll just like, I've got to get away from my computer. Sometimes I need a mental reset, and I'll go to the grocery store because like Walmart will reset your mind and make you more grateful.
I'm actually, Louder will see it sometimes. I'll just schedule, it'll just say, take a walk on my
Yeah.
calendar. And it's because same thing. I realize now I use a stand-up desk to help with circulation. By the way, there's a ton of those on Facebook Marketplace all the time, Debbie, if you're looking for one. But I do that. I just moved my walking pad in here so that I will start walking, right? I did get a vibration plate, Debbie. That's actually also really cool. You do 10 minutes on the vibration plate and it like simulates that you just jogged for an hour. So that's pretty cool. And they're not that expensive right now, but it is very important to reset. Like, and that's something that I do notice if I'm up here for several hours, I told you I do better in the morning than the afternoon. I will use a walk for my reset and be like, how do I come back and be more? I love building, like Kim, you were talking about like learning and whatnot. Like I love learning new things and building and creating and finding ways to create better efficiencies in everything that we're doing. And it's one of the things I'm probably most famous for at Workman and stuff like that. But there's a period of time where your brain doesn't function as well. And I used to use it and I probably should do it again. Is anybody familiar with the Pomodoro technique? Yeah. Like I used to do that and that was a good reset for me. It was like work for 25 minutes and go in. And Mark and I used to do it together all the time because we were very much the same way. He would close his office and be like highly focused. And then you'd go to talk to him and he'd be like, me. I'd be like, oh, yep, you got it. I love it. And sometimes that's all we need is a quick reset. Like walk outside, do whatever that is. That becomes a system as well. Sometimes Louder will remind me, you should probably eat. Like, and that's another thing an assistant can help you with. I'm like, it is now 2 o'clock my time. I have not ingested any food yet today. So it's like those are simple things, but we have the relationship now that we check in with each other, and that can help over time. And it seems simple, but it's important. And you develop that with someone who you've brought into your life to help you be better at everything that you do. Right. So it's something to think about. Well, that's everything that I had today. My takeaways for you to do is to start the list. And today I want you to think about 3 things right away that you're like, I should not be doing this, and put those on the list. And then for the rest of the next week, I would just encourage you to keep that list there. And as you're doing things and you think, I wish I wasn't, or I shouldn't be, or I'd rather pull my eyelashes out than do this ever again in my life, it goes on the list. Okay, you've now started building out a plan for when you're ready to hire an assistant that you can create a roadmap for what they have to learn. Choose one task that you can figure out how to delegate out this week, even if you don't have an assistant. I'm talking like Instacart or dry cleaning or whatever that looks like. If you wish you weren't doing it and you can find a way to either use Fiverr or whatever that is, how do I get rid of one thing that I can delegate? And then start blocking time on your calendar to create training videos for each of these things. It doesn't have to be massive. It can just be a couple hours a week or even 1 hour a week to start with. Like that's typically what I'll do is create the list. And then when I'm in that mode, I will just say, okay, this is my 1 hour. I'm going to sit here and open Zoom. I'm going to record myself doing it. And now it's going in the library. Because otherwise it feels a little overwhelming to think, oh God, I got to record like 50 videos all at one time. So all of this can be systemized, as you go along. Anything else before we wrap up today?
That's going to be difficult for me because I'm the one that gets delegated too.
I know, but there are things that you can delegate out. You're going to have to think about it. Even if it's to ChatGPT, Debbie, there are definitely
I use it a lot. And my environment is really big for me in the last couple of years. I've always been into like the environment with smells and sounds and all of that kind of stuff. And I've started with, I use my Alexa to help me with a lot of things like reminders and timers and music. And I do a lot of binaural beats. And I have my diffuser going with lavender essential oils in it. And I have a waterfall that I listen to that trickles, and like all these like environmental things that help me stay focused and they help me stay more calm, because sometimes I can get a little revved up about an agent that doesn't know what they're doing and they're trying to tell me what to do. No, that's what you're not going to do. And that's usually an agent on the other side, not one of the agents that I TC for. So this has really helped me with like, and I've noticed that my mood is far better than it's ever been. that I'm way more positive. I'm way more happy with myself.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very much the same way about environment. Like my desk is set up the way that I want it. It's why I got the stand-up desk so that I make myself get up and down. I used my Alexa device like 5 times already before this call. I'm always asking it questions. And then this is, it's going to seem silly, but I always like to share this with people. If you like to listen to something in the background, I heard this on TikTok like maybe 2 years ago. The soundtrack to Interstellar by Hans Zimmer, anything by Hans Zimmer, really, has been proven to be the best soundtrack to listen to for high productivity. I am constantly listening to it whenever I'm building or creating and I'm not on a call. I don't know what it is about his music, but I am so productive when I listen to the Interstellar from the movie Interstellar soundtrack. It's like I am so far in the zone. It's amazing. And then I have a new Spotify soundtrack. If you guys want me to send it to you, I absolutely will. Somebody else shared it with me and I am so productive on that one as well. It's crazy. And it's called House Focus. And I'll send it to you guys. No words, right, guys? Because you're not singing along. That's where the distraction starts to happen. But in between Interstellar and that Spotify list, when I put it on, I'm like, oh, I'm getting stuff done now. Like, I mean, I'll like tell Laura and Casey, I'm like, you will not believe what I got done in the last 2 hours. It's insane. So your environment is very important. Very important. You're going to be the most effective when you've created something that you feel very comfortable in, energized by. It's exactly why I do stand up more. I mean, obviously circulation is an issue for me as well, but I go back and forth and then the walking pad as well of like, get your body moving because your brain's going to work better too.
I want to share something that I use. Oh, sorry.
Oh, just real quick, what's Hans's last name again?
Hans Zimmer, Zimmer. He's done a lot of the major soundtracks for incredible movies like Dune, all of those. Go ahead, Kim.
I use an app called Frequency. It's this full one right here. It's like $35 a year. But what's cool is like you can look up, like say you're having trouble sleeping, or like I shared it with one of my agents and she was like having trouble with digestion. So she looked up digestion and it has, depending on what you need help with, whether it's calm the frick down or enhance positive energy, self-love, visualization, like there's all different types. So I use it for sleeping because I have trouble sleeping. And then I do a lot of vision board and visualization, and I have a mind movie that I use. And so I'll put on the visualization one.
I love that.
And like I hurt my foot, so I have natural painkiller.
That's
So
incredible.
yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff on there.
Debbie, you can tell your Alexa to play that soundtrack for you and it'll play the whole thing. It's always what I'm using it for over here. So you don't have to buy it or anything like that. It's just there. So guys, I hope you got a lot out of today. I appreciate you taking the time to be on the call with me. As always, if any questions come from this or whatever that is, feel free to reach out. I'm here. Have a great rest of your week, okay?
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.